Well, the six-man rotation era is beginning. Tatsuya Imai is a part of this Astros team, and there are a lot of big names, even former Astros, still looking to sign with the team. I got the old 2-9er here, the lefty. You know what? Join us. Let's go back to the bullpen.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. Insinual house will swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat it low in the way you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen. Oh yeah.
What's going on, Mike? Welcome in to the show. I know both of us have had kind of long days, but
sure,
that's what happens when you're a working man. So how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. Today was a big day in the Stanton household. It was my grandson's 5th birthday, so entertaining him quite a bit. But hey, listen, this is our life now. We have to just keep plugging along, and and we have to get back to our fans here at Back to the Bullpen.
Right. And look, there's no tired like grandson tired. I mean, I just go shoot hoops with my son, but when my 3-year-old grandson comes over, Avon, that kid's a Texas tornado, man. He is just going and going.
My Caden is the same way, and when he gets around his grandmother, my wife is Gigi. Oh my goodness, they are partners in crime, and they are non-stop. It's pretty funny, but it is exhausting.
I hear you. But hey, man, this off season is going, relatively slow outside of the Astros world. Imai not only attended a Texans game and saw a win, but since we've been on the mic, he was at the game where the Rockets made a valiant comeback and Kevin Durant hit the game-winning 3.
Yeah, how about that?
Just 5 feet from Imai because he was sitting courtside.
Yeah.
He's 2-0. And then, Mike, to add to Houston victories and connection with the Astros, Joe Espada was in the house. The Cougars came back from 13 down, and their freshman Fleming went off 9 points in the last 2 minutes to beat Texas Tech. And I want to there you go Cougs. Now, I do want to say something about this because I want to get your take on this. I thought it was a really cool thing. After the game, and I think we can kind of relate this to like where Joe Espada is going to have to be this year, because we'll talk about the no extension talks here in a second from Crane, those comments. But they asked Joe Espada why it was important, to be at this game. He said, look, we love supporting the local community. U of H has done such a great job. And he started talking about Kelvin Sampson and how he motivates his players. And after the game, Kelvin Sampson said, both teams played bad tonight, but not because they're bad teams, but because they're both good teams. Mm-hmm. And when you play a good team, you're going to do some bad stuff.
Sure.
Now we go into the year of 26 where Jim Crane was asked directly, okay, Joe Espada and Dana Brown don't have contract extensions. Are you going to extend their contract? And he's like, right now, we're not really going to talk about it. But what do you think about that going into this season? Before we get into the rotation talks, are these guys in a lame duck period, or is that too much to put on it? Like, what's the thinking here?
Yeah, I don't think they're in a lame duck period at this point.
Right.
I think that you're still and really, what does that mean? I mean, you would love to have an extension, but that doesn't mean it always is coming, and it doesn't mean it's not going to come. So I think what's happening right now is you just put your head down, do your job, and you see what happens once the season starts back up. Once the season gets going, now you can maybe consider it a lame duck situation. But again, it doesn't really mean anything. And the way the media will portray it is like, well, is he going to make some different calls just because he doesn't have an extension? If he doesn't have a contract for next year. I don't think that's the case for either guy. I think you're going to do the best job you can do, whether you have a contract or not, and then the rest will just work its way out. The thing is, we know that Jim Crane is not going to negotiate in the media. What's going to happen is if there's going to be an extension, he will announce it when the extension is done. He is not going to let because that's just the way you're supposed to do it. You don't do it in the media. You don't do it out in public. You do it behind closed doors. You do it professionally. Both guys have done a good job. I think Joe Espada has done a very good job with all the injuries that have happened, especially to the pitching staff, the way, he's kept this team together, especially coming into a situation where, he really didn't have any experience at all and has done a really nice job of dealing with the media, dealing with the front office, because you got to remember, as a big league manager, the baseball part of it is kind of the easy part. You have to deal with the front office. You have to deal with the general manager. You have to deal with ownership. Then you have to deal with all the stuff that happens behind the scenes. You have to deal with things that happen in the clubhouse. People need to understand, you can't put, 30 type A free agent, type A personalities into a, tight situation like being in a clubhouse.
Yeah.
Going out and fighting every night, trying to win baseball games, trying to win a World Series, and not have confrontations. It happens all the time, and that's stuff that the managers have to put up with. The players have to put up with it. The manager has to put. So, once the game actually gets started and you're actually doing X's and O's, that's the stuff that, you really want to do. All the other stuff that you have to put up with. And listen, we don't hear in the media, we don't hear anything about it. So what does that mean? That means he's doing a great job of keeping that where it's supposed to be, and that's in-house.
Yeah, no. And I mean, there's always rumors, and, it was funny to me whenever Yainer Diaz was splitting time with Marty Maldonado, and there was this imaginary narrative of the clubhouse is split. There's Team Maldi and Team Yainer, and Yainer doesn't like Maldi, and Maldi doesn't like Yainer. I talked to Yainer Diaz about it in person and his agent, and he was like, no, I respect the hell out of Maldonado. Sure. And his agent told me he looks at Maldonado almost like a professor and student, or student teacher and professor
mentor
type relationship. And that's how it played out. And I remember telling people that, and they're like, oh no, that's not true. And I'm like, but you have this narrative that you just kind of made up.
Well, and where did that come from? Where did the narrative come from? What usually comes from the media, and whether it's an editorial in a paper situation, something like that someone puts out there that, we heard a rumor, what was the old 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Right.
You've heard so many different. Well, a friend of a friend of a friend knows this. Right. Okay, well, that means it's absolutely true. And then when you talk to the people really involved, and that's why, the dynamic of what happens in a clubhouse, people just really don't understand. They don't get it. And Houston, this Astros team over the years has been really fun to watch, really fun to cover, but kind of boring. I mean, there just hasn't been a whole lot of outside drama that has gone into it. So, was that a situation that there was drama? I don't think so, because if nothing else, it takes two people to tango. And even if Yainer was a little upset that he wasn't getting the playing time, Maldonado wasn't. They're already talking about Maldi being a big league manager, and he just hung up his mask.
Exactly. No, that would be something else. And I know it's funny. I saw, just a little side note, I saw a picture at the new Tiger Golf League that they've started, where they They do this indoor golf, which I absolutely want to attend at some point. That looks really fun to be a part of and to be that close to those world-class guys.
Sure.
But I believe it was Tucker, Brantley, and Springer were all hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Michael Schwab tweeted out Astros goat farm, in the house. And Eric and I interviewed.
You know what? In another 10 or 12 years, there are going to be a lot of banners being, a lot of numbers being retired.
Yeah.
There's going to be a whole bunch.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Mike, let's get into it.
Okay.
And this is something that has been talked about, the 6-man rotation. Now it's becoming a part of MLB Network's talking about it. The beat writers are writing about it. I know you and I have been talking about it. We've been on it, Locked on Astros, and I think we've been a little bit ahead of the curve. Not to say I'm trying to give us more credit than others, but I think the writing's been on the wall. And for you being a pitcher, being a former pitcher, being someone who's been around the game, coaches, players that are in the game, this is something you've talked about as a trend that's just going to continue to grow in Major League Baseball. So in this 6-man rotation, I guess, puzzle, all right, you have your obvious picks, a Hunter Brown, Tatsuya Imai, Christian Javier. I think they're 1, 2, 3. You can change the 2 and the 3 however you want. I'll kind of get your take on that. Mike Burrows, Ryan Weiss, AJ Blueball, Jason Alexander, Lance McCullers Jr. Well, that's not just 6 pitchers. That's 8 or 9 pitchers, All right, I had to sneeze. You like how I hit the mute button fast? I almost didn't get it.
Perfect.
So, Mike, let's talk about, let's bury the lead. Let's talk about the back end guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Burrows, Weiss, Blue Ball, Alexander and McCullers. That's 5. What do you think in these 5? And I'm not saying make your bold prediction to say who's in there, but does Lance McCullers leapfrog these guys because of experience? Does he get the chance, or are all these guys kind of having the same shot?
No, I don't think Lance McCullers. Why would you put Lance McCullers Jr. ahead of any of those guys?
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because what has been, his biggest Achilles heel has been his health. And even though he came back from, the long arm injury, he ended up getting hurt again. He went back on the IL. So I think that, what you do is you have all these guys, Joe Espada, Dana Brown, probably at some point they have a list of somewhere. And there's, there is an order, but the order doesn't necessarily mean anything. What you're going to do is you're going to have an active situation in spring training that you're going to see who pitches their way into the rotation. And it's a great situation to have. But if you remember just a couple of years ago, Dana Brown actually said, "Oh, you know what? We got plenty of pitching." That was the year that you lost 60% of your rotation in 2 days. And all of a sudden you're scrambling like crazy. You have to bring up guys, like Arrighetti, that he was not ready to be in the big leagues, you had, that's where you had to go. You had no choice. So as soon as you think you have too much pitching, you need to bring in another guy or two. I mean, that's just the way it is. And as far as the 6-man rotation, the funny thing is, if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, that was like a hot button term that you didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want to say it, even though most teams were using that situation. Oh no, we're just in it for a couple of weeks. Well, a couple of weeks turns into a month, turns into 6 weeks. And the way injuries have happened across Major League Baseball, it is such a fluid situation. I mean, nobody goes through a baseball season, 162 games, and has 5 guys, 6 guys, no, 8 guys, 10 guys, 12 guys. I mean, who knows how many pitchers you end up needing. So the more the merrier. And then you just have, a situation that, it is, I don't want to say it's a tryout, but, you have competition trying to work their way into the rotation. And the only way to do that is by pitching well when you get the ball and you get the opportunity.
Because what you have here is an interesting situation where Hunter Brown and Christian Javier have the most innings pitched, right? We have seen when Javier is healthy before his injury what he can do.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely lights out guy. But after surgeries and after injuries and stuff, things change, and it can alter your delivery. It can alter how you throw the ball, how you attack, things like that. So, do you think Tatsuya Imai has a chance to cement that number 2 spot? Or do you think because he's new, he's learning a new league, it would be better to put him as the number 3 and have Javier, who has experience, being a top of the bill type of pitcher? Do you think 2 or 3 matters for Imai?
Yeah, I don't think it makes a difference. It doesn't. I mean, if he was going to be, the number 1 guy, if he was going to be,
Right.
if he was going to be at the top of the rotation, now there are definitely expectations and pressure that comes with that. But whether he's pitching the 2nd game of the season or the 3rd game of the season, it really doesn't matter that much. A lot of what you may look at is not what the long-term, what number is beside him. It's going to be what the matchup looks like. Who you playing? What is the other lineup? Do you want to put a left-hander? If you get a left-hander, you want to put a left-hander in there somewhere. What is the situation? So it's not just a matter of, he is the 2nd best pitcher in the rotation, so he needs to be in the 2 spot. It doesn't really, because you know what? After the first time through the rotation, there really isn't a number 1 anyways. It's just who's the next guy up in that rotation, who's the next guy on the list.
So, Mike, are you saying that the amount of minutes or hours that I spend conversing back and forth with fans means absolutely nothing? I'm joking.
Yeah, I am.
Hand it to me easy, Mike. Come on. Look, I love how you never sugarcoat it with me. You're just like, look, take the medicine, kid.
Right.
But I do like this rotation. Now, the thing is, of these guys, outside of I believe Colton Gordon, they're all righties. Is that a problem?
Well, I don't want to say it's a problem, but it's not the optimal situation.
Okay.
Because you would love to have a left-hander in there somewhere. Now, listen, this is still a right-handed dominating league as far as the hitters are concerned. So having right-handers is just fine, is good. But yeah, you would love to have it. You would love to have some kind of situation there that you can make guys take a little bit different look. A lot of the best hitters in the league are left-handed, and so you would, if you don't have any left-handers in the rotation, that shows a greater need of having at least a couple good left-handers in the bullpen.
Right.
Because at some point you're going to have to get some big left-hander out in a tight situation. If you have a good left-hander in the pen, that can definitely help you in that situation. But is a left-hander in the rotation, is it a necessity? I don't think it's a necessity. It's not. If you don't have a left-hander, you can't win baseball games. You can't win. You can't win the division. That's not the case. That's just one of those things. If you want to call it more of a luxury, that's fine. But it also, just because you put a left, it's got to be the right left-hander. You can't put just any lefty in there. Just if it's a guys who go out there and nurse a 5.5 ERA. Well, who cares if he's lefty or righty?
Exactly. I want to ask you this in regards to someone like an AJ Blueball, Jason Alexander, who might be on the outside looking in of all these pitchers. And no disrespect to Jason Alexander, because he did phenomenal.
Who pitched great. Yes.
With the heavy lifting. But do you remember back in 2017, the Astros had Brad Peacock, and Brad Peacock was huge that year. He started, he was relief guy. He was long relief guy.
Yeah.
Blue Ball and Alexander, to me, do they profile as guys that could make spot starts, that could kind of play that almost a utility arm role?
Yeah. I look at So I think the question we need to ask is which one profiles better as a starter, and
Mm.
which one profiles better as a reliever. And I think blue ball probably profiles a little bit better as a reliever. You're talking about a bigger arm, okay, but and we know Alexander with his off speed stuff, he needs to be, I think he needs to be in the rotation. So, it's not just a matter of, what did you do last year? It's a matter of does this stuff profile into helping the team win baseball games? And listen, with the fluidity that the pitching staff is, you know, having the proper attitude, which both of those guys do, just give me the ball and let me pitch. If it's in the first inning, that's great. If it's in the fifth inning, okay, that's fine too. Just let me be on the team and let me help the team win.
Yeah. I remember whenever we were talking to, and I don't think he ever made it to the big leagues, but Jonathan Sprinkle, and some of these guys when they were at AAA Sugarland, I remember asking him, like, are you more suited if you get called up to be a starter or a relief pitcher? And he said, I would rather be a big league relief pitcher than a minor league starter.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think, because of the surplus of arms that they have, every one of these guys understands that you have a role. Your role may not be what you ideally wanted it to be, but if you're a contributing factor on a major league team winning, like in 2022, a lot of people forget about this. Not the solid Astros fans, but maybe people across baseball. But Ryan Stanek, okay, he's a free agent right now. He hasn't signed with anybody. Let me make note of that. He can still throw gas. He has seen his ERA creep up a little bit, but without his record-breaking lowest ERA by a pitcher in an Astros single season, the Astros don't get to where they are in the postseason. Even though he wasn't using the postseason a lot, he was a key cog in that wheel. So the relief pitcher and knowing your role in this team, I think, is huge for Espada and the pitching staff or the coaching staff in that bullpen.
Well, here's what the proper mindset for especially a young pitcher, but really any pitcher, other than, your top of the rotation guys, other than your closer. Now, when I talk about closer, I'm talking about a bona fide, Josh Hader, like dominant closer. All the rest of the guys, what their contract says is pitcher. It doesn't say reliever. It doesn't say starter. It doesn't say, oh, I need to be the three guy in the rotation, or I'm a short relief reliever. I'm a leverage reliever. No, it just, and if you have the proper mindset that whenever the phone rings, if you're in the bullpen, you go and pitch whatever inning it is. If you have that mindset, then your job is just to go out there and get hitters out, regardless of what the situation is. Things are just going to work out better. You're going to be a better pitcher. You're going to be more happy. You're going to be happier with your career. The team is going to be happier because you're going to pitch better. And just the attitude of everyone else is going to be better. So, usually guys that are complaining about their role are guys that aren't pitching very well. They're looking for an excuse. I can say my job when I pitched was when the phone rang and it was for me, I go in and I do everything I can to get every hitter out. That's it. It doesn't matter when it was during the game.
Well, it seemed like I just got this picture in my mind. You're in the bullpen, you've got guys in there. You've got a guy in there that hadn't pitched many days. The phone rings and he's like, oh, it's my turn. And they're like, hey, Stanton, get up. And the guy's like, it's always Mike.
It happens. It happens. It does. And listen, the last thing you want is to have somebody in the bullpen that doesn't want to pitch.
Well, that's true. That makes sense.
So I have no problem with someone going, WTF? Why am I not in this game? Stanton's pitched 5 times this week. Well, hey, that's just the way it is. But if it's like, whew, I'm glad I'm not in this game, man, that's the one you want to look at with the kind of a cross-eyed and go, what? You don't want to pitch?
You're like, good. I didn't want to pitch anyway.
That's right.
So I've gotten heated up 3 times this week and I didn't go in. So, you know what? I do want to move off this a little bit and kind of go into this free agent chessboard. So we just saw a trade where Eduardo Cabrera of the Marlins got traded for 3 very high prospects in the Cubs organization.
Right.
You talk about with me before the show because of his controllability, right? Because of how many years he has.
Listen, he's got a big arm. He had the best year of his career. Now it wasn't, he still was injured. He threw 137 innings, something like that.
Yeah.
150 strikeouts, but he's got big stuff. Big dude, right. Big stuff. The reason the price was so high was because there is still big upside there. Okay. But he's also got 3 years of control. Okay.
That's huge.
If you have a young pitcher that's pitching very well and has 3 years of control, there's not a price tag big enough to trade for him. But because of the injuries, that's why Cabrera. But yeah, I mean, he got. I think it was the Cubs' number 1 prospect, number 11 prospect, and then I think a third baseman. So you got really 3 for 1. Yeah, it's because of the controllability, and the dude's not making any money.
Exactly. So let's do this. I want to jump into again the hot stove front, and before we do, make sure that you go to ramshirts.com. Check out the Back to the Bullpen t-shirt. We both have one. They're phenomenal. You can wear them while podcasting. You can wear them to the beach. You can wear them to your, I'm sure you wore your Back to the Bullpen shirt to your grandson's 5th birthday, right?
It's yes, of course.
Yeah,
what else would I wear?
I mean, I know.
I mean, you need to wear these to like a wedding.
A wedding, yes.
I mean,
yes.
a back to the bullpen wedding. Now that sounds like
we will
memorable situation.
We will sing a duet.
Ooh.
I don't know about that. So
don't know if you want to hear me
market sing. Exactly. So the free agent market is unusually quiet at this point in January. That silence is kind of in itself a story, and I think there's a lot of factors to that.
Sure.
So the 4 big bats that are out there: Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette, and even Cody Bellinger, who's drawing some interest and had a couple offers from the Yankees. Top arms like Ranger Suarez are still unsigned. Framber Valdez, as I think teams are creating a standoff and agents are like cautiously navigating. Let's talk about Bregman. I know we've talked about him before. You and I think that he's going back to Boston.
Yeah.
I know that Boston has made an offer to him and around the 150 million, mark for 5 or 6 years.
Right.
And there's been some talk about, the Blue Jays, they might be looking at Bichette, but they're holding off to see what Kyle Tucker does. But start with Alex Bregman. Do we think the inevitable end is Boston?
Well, I mean, listen, we've said it. I'm going to stick to what we said. I think that that is a natural fit for him. I think that he is a Red Sox type player. Everything that we have said, nothing has changed. And the crazy thing is, all these guys, they're intertwined. Even though they don't play the same position, right, they can play. Bichette can play second, Bichette can play third, he can play short. We know Alex Bregman can do the same thing. So they're all intertwined. And the crazy thing is, there's been conversations with all of these teams, and it's mostly in the AL East.
Yeah.
The Giants have talked to, a little bit, but mostly it's Toronto, it's Boston, and it's New York. And, there's conversations, and you can see all 3 of those players. You can see a route to all 3 of those teams. So it's going to be fascinating. You don't know what the first domino to drop, the first shoe to drop. That's what it's going to take. That's how free agency works. It is like stacking dominoes. You touch the first one and then they all fall. Well, the first one hasn't been touched. And I know I said, going into the new year, it wasn't going to be until the new year that we're going to start seeing movement. Now you kind of have a standoff here. It's who's going to be the first one to blink.
Exactly. So, Kyle Tucker remains, I think, the big prize free agent.
Sure.
I mean, all of these guys, Bichette, Bregman, Tucker, Bellinger, they're all, would be solid pieces. Beyond Toronto, the Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees are big spenders. But Toronto seems to be more in on trying to get Tucker. They've been aggressive. They've been talking to him. And Bichette, if he's unlikely to return to Toronto, they did sign Kazuma Okamoto. And Bichette, though, has been willing to, he said he's willing to change positions, which brings into play the Cubs, the Phillies, and the Yankees.
I mean, there's the problem. He wants to go back to Toronto. That's what I believe. And I believe Toronto wants him, except with the Japanese player, Yamamoto, not Yamamoto. What was his name?
No, it is Kazuma Okamoto.
Okay. Yeah. Playing third base. Their infield is kind of full.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because, when you look at it, one of the things you're looking at is not just, where are they going to, you have to look, where are they going to play? DH is obviously a part of this, but are you going to pay, a 27-year-old big bucks when you don't have a defensive position for him?
True.
He's not a great defensive player anyways.
All right.
The dude can flat out hit. There is no doubt about that.
He's a hitter. Yeah.
But defensively, in some cases, he's more of a liability than an asset. What are you going to do? I mean, even though you'd love to have him back and you'd love to keep the party together, keep the team together, you just paid your first baseman, Vladdy Jr., $1 bazillion to stick around. Can
you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine seeing the look? I remember, Pudge Rodriguez signed a massive contract when he was playing for his day and time. And I remember one of the clubhouse guys told us on a tour, one of the older, I think it was the ballpark at Arlington that they had built. And we asked him, what is when you're cleaning up and stuff, what's the oddest thing you found in the clubhouse? And he said he actually found a check stub from Pudge Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not going to tell you what it was, but the withholdings were ridiculous.
You're right. Who is this FICA? Who is this FICA, and why is he taking all my money?
Right. Now, this is interesting about Cody Bellinger. The Yankees have made him 2 offers, I believe, but there's a dark horse, and a lot of people are saying that Pittsburgh is hot on his trail. Pittsburgh has been signing players, Mike, and it seems like they might be building around Paul Skeens, and for the first time, they might be in the ballpark to not lose a key pitching arm that they seem to let go. Is this a possibility?
Okay. I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but why would Bellinger go to the Pirates?
You got Paul Skeens.
unless his market has completely fallen apart.
Okay.
Okay. Why would he do that? I mean, to tell you the truth, what the Pirates would probably have to do to get a top free agent, they're going to have to overpay like crazy.
Okay.
The Pirates, they're not doing that. I mean, unfortunately, to me, that is the situation that I see. And, I think Toronto has had the same problem. Because there's a lot of things that go into free agency. It's not just about the dollar value.
Right.
Okay? Now they have a very good team. I mean, basically they outplayed the Dodgers in the World Series. They just didn't win the World Series. Okay. And they've got the same cast of characters coming back and then some. So they're probably going to be the pick of the East to win that division. But you go back 4 or 5 years ago when they were trying to bring in free agents, You have to say, compared to some of the other places, you take a pay cut because of the taxes. You're paying Canadian taxes. You have to go through customs every time you go on the road. Every time you come home, you have to go through customs. I mean, and those are all things. Your family has to leave the United States and go to Canada, even though Toronto is a wonderful city. Still, I mean, these are all things that you have to take into account when it's not just about the bottom line that they're going to pay the most money. And back then we said the same thing about Toronto. The way they're going to have to get a free agent is they're going to have to overpay. And when George Springer went up there, there's a lot of people in the industry thought that they overpaid for George Springer.
Yeah. Yeah. And, he had kind of a resurgent year this year and was really, was the,
he's the salty V now. He's the salty vet now.
He is, but he still plays with the enthusiasm and swagger of like a rookie.
He's George. I mean, he's George. Springer. We all love him here. He is going to have a banner up in the rafters when it's all said and done.
Oh, yeah.
Here at Dyken Park.
Exactly.
That's going to be a shoe-in.
Definitely. But will it be called Dyken Park when that happens? But so Ranger Suarez, there's literally not a legitimate team that I've heard that is in on him. But Framber Valdez, who I'm thinking, okay, he's going to go to Baltimore. Mm-hmm. They've signed a couple pitchers. I don't know that they need him that much anymore. And then I'm like, well, the Mets have the coffers. The Mets they have the money, but the Giants, I was listening to someone talk about it today. And when you look at their rotation, Mike, if you put him into the rotation with Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Tyler Mahle, Adrian Hauser, those are 4 very good pitchers. The top 2 or top billing pitchers. You add Framber Valdez to that Giants rotation, you've got a team that's competing with the other teams in their division that are very strong. And, the Dodgers, the back-to-back world champions.
Right. Now listen, there is not a rotation out there that Framber Valdez does not make better. Okay. Is there other things you have to kind of put up with? There is, but and to have Logan Webb and Framber Valdez, you better have an infield that can catch the ball, because there are going to be a lot of freaking ground balls. Those are 2 of the most prolific ground ball pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But we talked early about the domino situation that is free agency. I think that's the problem with Suarez. Suarez is not going to sign unless, him and a team gets creative, maybe a shorter term deal, maybe some, bunch of opt-outs or whatever it is. I think it's going to take Framber going before Suarez can his market will develop. The thing is, one of the dirty words in free agency is patience. Okay. Every player has a market. Whether you're the top of the free agent like Kyle Tucker, or, you're a guy just looking to stay in the big leagues, there is a market out there for you. The problem is you don't know how big a market you're going to have, and you don't know when it's going to materialize. And that's where you have to have patience.
Exactly. Now, with patience, we've come to December 7th. Good Lord, I went back a whole month. January 7th. Wow, I went back in time.
Do you really want to go through Christmas again?
Yeah, no, I don't. No, my wallet's still feeling Christmas this year. Right. Was blessed and able to buy gifts, but also comes a price. But January 8th is the deadline for the arbitration stuff, for the numbers to come in, and this is a part of baseball that too well, and you've described on this show, where you're like, man, I had a great year. And then the club's like, you kind of suck.
That's what they tell you, right? Hey, and it's a brutal situation, and no one really wants to go through it. The player definitely doesn't want to go through it. The team doesn't want to go through it. That's why you rarely see guys actually go to the hearing. There's always time to, up until you walk into the door, you actually walk into the conference room. You're working to get a deal done. You're trying to find that ground, that common ground in between the two numbers, because it is an ugly situation, and there have been many relationships burned because of arbitration.
No, yeah, and we've heard recent players, and I can't remember. I don't remember if it was Corbin Burns, one of the starting pitchers for the Brewers, and he basically, when he went into the arbitration, they were like, we lost the playoff series because of you last year. Like, what?
I'm telling you, it's
wild.
Brutal. It's freaking brutal. The time I went to arbitration, the Red Sox tried to tell me that I was basically just a get the left-hander out lefty. When at the end of the season, I was actually their closer. So you really don't know what they're going to say, or you do know what they're going to say. But there was at one point, my agent had to pull my shirt tail because I was going over the table. There was another point I had to hold his coat because he was going over the table. I mean, it can get very heated.
So you didn't create a PowerPoint presentation?
No, they're all there. Yeah, the PowerPoint.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Mike's like, here's my proof.
I mean, that was that was one of the easy arguments to shoot down, since really he's a get the left-hander out lefty when he's closing for you in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Now, were there ever those moments where you wanted to look at him and go, so how high of a level baseball did you play?
Oh, all the time. Well, here's the thing. I think we've talked about this before. In arbitration, when it first started, the general managers actually were the ones that were across the table from you. So for several years, the general managers were the one telling you how much you sucked. Okay. And then you walk out the door, and now you're supposed to have a relationship with that guy because you got to work with him. And it took a little bit of time, but then Major League Baseball decided, you know what, that's probably not the best situation. So then they had a third-party firm come in, and they would actually, do the owners or the Major League Baseball side of the arbitration, that side of the argument. So you don't have your general manager on the other side going, dude, you're terrible. You struck out 10 times with the bases, and just rip you apart. And then turn around and have to try and work with you all the way through the season.
So politically incorrect says, I wouldn't want to piss Mike off.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty. When I came off the mound a lot of times and things didn't go my way, I was kind of like Moses and parting the Red Sea. People kind of just stayed away.
They just got out of the way. Kind of like I don't know if I think we talked about it during the World Series, but when Max Scherzer, whenever
Mad Max, when he went Mad Max,
when he tried to pull him, he's like, no, I think his one eye that was a different color turned the same color as the other eye or something like that.
That's right. A blue one and a red one.
Right. And then of course he said, who doesn't want to be told they suck?
Well, you know what? We all could use it every once in a while, but you wouldn't like it. You don't really like it. It's when your boss is telling you suck.
Yeah. So Mike, here's a question. Do the teams pick who does arbitration, or does MLB assign one firm for all teams?
Yeah, it's one firm. It's not up to the team because, like I said, they don't want to go through it either.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a firm. I know that the year that I went to arbitration, which was 1996, my agent actually had someone else that went through arbitration that was, just the day or two before I was. Mm-hmm. And it was the same, firm on the other side of the table. So that was one of the reasons why my agent was going over, because it was something that they had said from the previous arbitration hearing. That's why my agent was going over, because they kind of, we got personal.
See, I just like to imagine a world where maybe like Jim Adler is the arbiter,
the Texas Hammer.
The Texas Hammer. I got Mike $1.5 million.
That's right.
Oh man. Well, you know what? This is always great because we're able to go deep and talk about this stuff on a real perspective and understanding that you have. So, Mike, I'll say it every show until you're blue in the face, but I absolutely love when you share your major league experience because it means a lot. And this is stuff that I think people want to hear and that people miss a lot of times. And it's always good to hear, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows. And I know, I mean, you worked your ass off in your career and, pitched your best. And I mean, you got 3 World Series rings and you've done a lot of things that, most major league players don't even do in their career, and so
blessed way more than I ever deserved, that's for sure. And that's why we're here. We're here to talk about baseball, tell stories, and just be entertaining.
Definitely. Well, Mike, this has been a good session going back to the bullpen. The Astros definitely got some decisions to make. Clubs have decisions to make. I think 2026 is going to be an exciting year in baseball.
Still
I think
a lot of good baseball players, a lot of very expensive baseball players still on the market. So still waiting for that first domino to drop, and then things will start picking up pace. But the crazy thing is, I mean, what are we, 6 weeks away from pitchers and catchers?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, it's great. And actually, people that are playing in the WBC actually report.
Oh, that's right.
Training before.
It's even earlier. That's right. I forgot the WBC.
So like February 9th and 10th. And Ime is not going to be pitching for Team Japan. So that he said he wants to get familiar with the team.
That is a strategic move that and it's probably the right move. And to go back to the beginning of the podcast, you were talking about how he went to a Texans game, he went to a Rockets game. We know this dude's got personality, and we also know he's got guts to him. Just the fact that he tried to speak a little bit of English during his press conference. I mean, that is one of the things that, is very fearful for anybody. I mean, whether it's an American, an English speaker going to, one of the foreign countries that you don't speak, or vice versa.
Right.
That's just because you don't know if you're going to say something wrong and be embarrassed or even, piss somebody off, so.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I had a friend who went over to Spain to live there for a couple of years. And he was trying to ask a lady where he could get a cake for a birthday party. He wanted to get a cake made because they wanted to eat a big cake. Well, he kept saying it in English and tried to translate it in Spanish. Well, He was saying cat. And he said she started hitting me with her broom. And then I found out she thought I was trying to find someone's big cat so we could eat this cat for my birthday.
Oh.
He was talking about a cat, not a cake. And so
there you go. You never know. Never know.
Well, hey, man, like I said, this has been great going back to the bullpen with you, Mike. Look forward to coming back. Hey, next week, we're going to have you stop by Locked On Astros.
Yeah.
And represent us there. And we'll do some Astros content creator corner stuff. So, for myself, for Mike, and everybody here back to the bullpen and Ram Shirts, thank y'all for stopping by. And like I say, always positive, always Stros.
Adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. Insinuate house will swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat it low in the way you can't hit it. You know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you